Me and Marvin Gardens, Chapter 22, Ocean Soup and the Kissing Incident. There was power. Boys needed power over girls, as far as kids like Tommy and Mike were concerned. I didn't think that way at all. I didn't know if I was normal or if they were, but I knew I was right. Calling a girl names like putrid or kissing her out of the blue like that, it all just showed how dumb we boys were, not how powerful. And it showed Annie was right about why they called her Putrid Annie. None of those boys were thinking for themselves, and they were probably scared of her for being smart. The pollution fact on the announcements that day was it takes a plastic bottle 500 years to decompose. Americans throw away 2.5 million of these bottles per hour. Think about getting a reusable water bottle. Per hour? That's what I kept asking myself. Per hour? That is what I thought about during my math test. I didn't remember one question from the test once I walked out of the room, and I knew I'd probably failed. The kissing incident earned Tommy a 3-day suspension. I was called into the office before lunch, and I told the principal what happened. I might have told him about the list and the other boys making the list. I might have told him that Tommy wasn't himself, that he was being a jerk so those boys would treat him better. I might have told him that something had happened over the weekend, but I didn't know what it was, even though it left dirt and tears all over my former best friend's face. Not only did Tommy get suspended for kissing Annie Bell without her permission, but those boys got called in one by one to talk about the list, and the school called their houses to talk to their parents. At lunch, people talked. No one could understand why Annie was so crazy about the dumb kiss. Girls, boys, they all weighed in on how Tommy shouldn't get in trouble for what he did. It was like I was the only person who was thinking right about this stuff. We all learned since kindergarten that we can't touch other people without permission. What changed now that we were in 6th grade? One kid said Annie should be flattered because she was putrid, and I said, "That's it," really loud, and everyone looked at me. Then I said, "How would you like it if some guy walked up to you right now and just kissed you?" The boys looked grossed out. The girls looked like they were actually thinking about it. None of them answered. I was kind of amazed that I'd raised my voice. Tommy came to science class and sat in his usual seat. He would miss Tuesday through Thursday for his suspension. He didn't look at me, but I didn't think about that at the time. Tommy hadn't looked at me in 6 months, so I didn't know how anything was supposed to be anymore. When Ms. G started her lesson on ocean pollution and put a slide up on the smartboard with a jar of gel suspending plastic confetti, Tommy raised his hand. "What would happen if an animal showed up that could eat all that plastic?" Tommy asked. My whole body went weak, and I started sweating so much I felt my skin cells peel off. Did you know humans lose about 800 tiny flakes of skin every minute? 40,000 per hour? I lost all 40,000 when I heard Tommy ask this question. They just slid off and stuck to the inside of my clothes. Actually, there are microbes in the ocean that are breaking down plastics already, Tommy. Great question. But what if it wasn't microbes? Tommy asked. What if there was, like, a dog or a cow or, something that ate plastic before it got to the ocean? That would be interesting, I guess, she answered. But today, we're discussing how we can manage our own trash in more beneficial ways so we can keep our oceans cleaner. I turned around and glared at Tommy in a way that made him glare back at me. A minute later, I got a note. "Thanks for getting me suspended, hippie." I wrote back, even though I knew I shouldn't have. "I didn't get you suspended." He wrote back, "Mike's dad shoots groundhogs with his rifle, a real rifle. Say goodbye to Marvin Gardens." I stared at that note for a long time. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know why Tommy had turned on me and Marvin. I still didn't know for sure if him showing up at the creek on Sunday was all a setup. Kids do that, you know. They set traps for other kids to fall into. Happens all the time. Just like sucker punches. At dinner, Mom had already heard that Tommy was suspended. I don't know how moms find this stuff out, but she asked me what happened and I told her. "Annie sits next to me on the bus and Tommy kissed her without her permission," I said. "What's that mean?" Dad asked. Bernadette said, "You guys are in 6th grade." Mom said, "Seems harmless to me." I said, "If some guy did that to you at your job, would it be okay?" Dad said, "Tommy's just a kid. He didn't think about it, probably." They've been planning it for a while, I answered. They've been making a list. Bernadette said, I can't believe you two think kissing people without permission is okay. You're parents. What's wrong with you? I don't like that tone, Dad said. Annie's in fifth grade. She's only 10, I said. Remember when that boy from your class kissed you at the pool that day, Bernadette? You were in maybe second grade. It was cute, Mom said. It wasn't cute. His name was Adam, and he was a jerk. And he only kissed me when I wasn't looking because then he could say he'd kissed a girl. Harmless, Dad said. Not harmless if it leads to boys thinking they can do stuff to girls without permission, Bernadette said. Yeah, I said. Let's stop talking about it, Mom said. Convenient for her, considering she started the conversation. Nobody talked about me not joining summer baseball, and I was happy about that. So we didn't talk about baseball. We didn't talk about kissing or Tommy getting suspended. We didn't talk about plastics or pollution. We just ate dinner, and then Mom went to work and Dad went to change out of his work clothes, and I headed toward the creek. Marvin Gardens was right there in my spot waiting for me. I'd brought 4 different kinds of plastic with me: a milk jug cap, which so far was his favorite, a small piece of plastic siding from the scraps in Phase 3, a thin plastic lid from a fast food soda cup, and a piece of that anti-erosion fencing that smelled like a new shower curtain. I always loved that smell. I laid out the 4 pieces of plastic on the bank of the creek and told Marvin to stay. He stayed. So, out of these 4 kinds of plastic, which one would you eat first? I asked. He looked at me, stood still. I said, come on. Marvin went straight for the anti-erosion fencing and chewed it quietly while making that purring noise he made. After that, he went for the milk jug cap. The cap was louder when he chewed it, but I could still hear him purring. He ate the small lid next, and then he sniffed at the house siding and moved it around with his nose a little, but didn't eat it. Why not the siding, Marvin? He couldn't answer me, but he still wouldn't eat it. I had no idea what made it different from the rest, but he seemed to hate it the way I hate cauliflower or blue food. As we sat and played for a while, he rolled onto his back and I rubbed his belly and I giggled because it was still slimy and I could tell he was having fun. I couldn't stop thinking about him being nice to Tommy, though. Did he let Tommy rub his belly, too? Did he go to the woods now that he had a friend there? And if he did, what would happen to him now that Tommy was suspended? Marvin, you have to be careful around Tommy. He's not a real friend. He can be really mean. And today, he said he would hurt you. Marvin just grinned at me and then jumped down and rolled around in the creek. I guess animals don't have real meanness and can't understand it. They just live and eat and poop and sleep, and even though they have personalities and seem mean sometimes, it's all inborn and not thought out. Like Tommy thought out that note to me about Mike's dad. And who shoots groundhogs in the suburbs anyway? I never saw Marvin Garden be mean. His personality was food-centered, but I didn't know if he was hungry all the time or just lonely or sad or lost. Kinda like me. Maybe sometimes it took a while to find your personality. Maybe it was okay that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, my feelings, with Tommy, or with what happened to Annie Bell. Maybe my dad made it more complicated by telling me I wasn't supposed to have feelings because I was a boy. Maybe he didn't have a personality because he was messed up too. Marvin Gardens, in one short week, had become my pet, my companion, my best friend. He had been a traitor when he let Tommy feed him, but I didn't want to see him that way. Now he was someone to be protected the way the government protects owls and bats. I didn't know if Tommy was serious about Mike's dad and his gun. I didn't know anything, and neither did Marvin.